The bus suddenly brakes hard. A man accidentally bumps into a woman. The woman feels offended. She accuses him of being a pervert. But the man explains he was just protecting his architecture model and says someone as handsome as him wouldn't need to harass women. This makes the woman even angrier. She yells at the driver to go to the police station, but the man stays calm. He says it was just an accident. Going to the police won't help. Then he adds, "Isn't it selfish to make all these busy people go to the police station just for you? Is your backside more precious than other people's golden time?" Other passengers nod in agreement. An older woman says, "With such a handsome guy, you're not losing anything." The woman is speechless, but she won't back down. She grabs the man's model, then takes revenge by slapping his backside. The model falls and breaks. Realizing her mistake, she quickly runs away, leaving the man devastated. The woman is Park Kain, a furniture designer, but her unusual style makes her work unpopular. Her boyfriend, Han Changryul, is an architect. Coincidentally, his rival is the man from the bus, John Jin-ho. Today Changryul visits Kain. He wants to break up with her, but can't find the words. So he kneels and asks for forgiveness, first planning to tell the truth, but Kain thinks he's proposing. She becomes overjoyed. Just as things get awkward, Jin-ho appears. They immediately argue about a project bid. Changryul uses this chance to leave with her proposal interrupted. Kain is furious. Kain complains to Jin-ho for ruining her special moment. Jin-ho looks confused when he hears this, because he actually received Changryul's wedding invitation this morning, and he was asked to attend the ceremony tomorrow. But why would Changryul propose today if he's getting married tomorrow? This makes Jin-ho very suspicious, but he decides not to get involved. That evening, Kain excitedly tells her best friends about her boyfriend's marriage proposal plans. Her friends all congratulate her happily, but then her boyfriend calls her out unexpectedly and breaks up with her. Kain is completely shocked, but she has no choice but to accept it. Later, Kain goes to a bar with friends and gets completely drunk. When one friend sees her condition, he tries to kiss her. Luckily, Kain throws up and stops him, but the friend still won't give up. He insists on taking advantage of her. Kain yells at him when she realizes, but the friend claims he truly loves her and tells her to relax and enjoy it. Kain responds by beating him up. As they rush into the hallway, they bump into Jin-ho. Before Kain can react, a naked young man runs up to Jin-ho and begs him not to leave. He actually means, "Don't fire me." But Kain mistakes them for lovers. She gives Jin-ho a knowing look. Sometime later, Kain attends a wedding. Her friend Young Sun desperately tries to stop her because Young Sun discovered a secret to keep Kain from finding out. Young Sun fakes a stomachache to stop her from going upstairs. But then Kain spots her ex-boyfriend Changryul. She realizes he got married right after their breakup. Kain is heartbroken. She walks toward Changryul in a daze. The wedding guests buzz with tension. The scene becomes explosive. Kain angrily asks her friend In Hee why she would recycle the ex who dumped her. But In Hee shows no remorse at all. Instead, she claims they're truly in love and tells Kain to let go. Seeing Kain being bullied, her friend Young Sun steps in to defend her, but gets stopped by security. They're both taken to a control room. While Kain and Young Sun are angrily shouting, Young Sun's son accidentally turns on all the wedding venue speakers. Without knowing this, Kain and Young Sun reveal all of Changryul and In Hee's dirty secrets. The bride and groom's true colors are suddenly exposed to all the guests. Changryul and In Hee are completely embarrassed. Changryul's father gets so angry he storms out. The wedding falls apart because of this argument. Changryul's father then punches his son in the face. The wedding comes to an abrupt end. Though Kain indirectly ruined the wedding, she doesn't feel satisfied because something worse happens to her. She took many loans to start her business and even put her family home as collateral, but her business isn't doing well. What's worse is her business partner spent all the loan money. When debt collectors come knocking, the partner disappears. To pay back the money, Young Sun suggests renting out rooms in her house. At the same time, a big art museum design project is open for bids. The client is Chairman Choi, a very fair and strict man who wants all designers to compete fairly. Architect Jin-ho is determined to win this project. His biggest competitor is Kain's ex-boyfriend Changryul. In previous projects, Changryul and his father used unfair tricks to win. This makes Jin-ho very angry. Now Changryul's father tries to use connections again, but Chairman Choi politely refuses. Though Chairman Choi has seen Jin-ho's designs and admires his work, to win the project, Jin-ho must prove his skills through fair competition just when they're at a loss. Their colleague Tae-hoon shares an important tip. Though Chairman Choi is strict and fair, he has one personal preference. He really loves designs by Professor Park Cholhan, especially the professor's house, Sangyeonji. He originally wanted Professor Park to design the art museum, but got turned down. So to learn from the best, Jin-ho visits Sangyeonji. To his surprise, Professor Park's daughter is Kain. When he hears Kain plans to rent out the house, Jin-ho offers to be her tenant, but gets firmly rejected because Kain's dad is still working abroad. As a woman living alone, she doesn't feel safe sharing with a man. Just when things seem hopeless, young Sun hears Jin-ho wants to rent the place. She convinces Kain, reminding her Jin-ho likes men. If she rents to him, she'll gain a caring, gay best friend and solve her money problems. Kain then remembers that awkward hotel scene she saw earlier, which looked pretty convincing, making her believe Jin-ho is gay. So, with friends as witnesses, they officially become roommates. On their first day living together, Jin-ho bumps into a table. His chat with his friend Jack immediately gives young Sun, eavesdropping at the door, some entertainment. Jack says, "I'll be gentle." Jin-ho replies, "Stop moving around." Jack says, "Take it easy." But their innocent conversation makes young Sun imagine wild scenarios. Even when Kain drags her away, she's reluctant to leave. Young Sun even says she wants to move in too. Kain reacts with disgust, calling Jin-ho a playboy. But this only excites young Sun more. Meanwhile, after the wedding disaster, In-hee and Chang-ryul never get married. Their relationship quickly falls apart. After a huge fight, they go their separate ways. Since Chang-ryul's father bought the wedding house, In-hee has nowhere to go and ends up back at Kain's place. Kain is shocked when In-hee, who stole her boyfriend, shows up like nothing happened. Kain's whole world is turned upside down. But In-hee claims that Kain ruined her wedding and made her homeless. So Kain should take responsibility. What's even more frustrating is she says Kain is just imagining things. Chang-ryul only feels pity for Kain, not love at all. Kain gets furious and starts fighting with In-hee. The noise bothers Jin-ho, who's working inside. He steps outside and tells them to keep it down, then goes back in. This makes In-hee even angrier. She can't believe Kain has such a great guy around. She boasts she can win Jin-ho over in 10 minutes. To stop her, Kain yells, "That guy likes men." Jin-ho is stunned. After Kain kicks In-hee out, he storms out and scolds Kain. Only then does he realize Kain only let him stay because she thought he wasn't into women. Furious, Jin-ho packs his things, leaves his bank details, and moves out of Sangyeonji. Kain has to refund his rent, putting her in financial trouble again. Meanwhile, the art gallery design project bidding heats up. Just as Jin-ho prepares to win the bid, his company faces a crisis. Workers get injured from overworking. To make things worse, the construction boss runs away to avoid responsibility. If they still can't get any big design projects in the future, their company will have to close down. Just then Kain brings a gift and apologizes to Jin-ho. So Jin-ho takes this chance to make peace. He moves back into Sangyeonji, but Kain's messy habits still bother Jin-ho. So he takes Kain to the supermarket to buy cleaning supplies. Then they clean the whole house together. After working hard together, the house looks brand new. Her friend Young Sun visits and can't stop praising it. After working all day, Kain smells worse than 1982 kimchi hearing. Kain hasn't showered for days. Young Sun quickly tells her to take a bath. But just then an accident happens. She sees him naked. But that's not enough for her. She comes back for another look. The man is completely shocked. He stays embarrassed even in bed. But the women act like they found treasure and start discussing what they saw. Jin-ho feels so embarrassed he wants to get angry, but his mom calls him out. When he gets to the restaurant, he realizes mom just misses his late father. So Jin-ho comforts her. The next day, Kain follows Young Sun's tip to a poor neighborhood. This is where her lone-skipping friend lives. Kain wants to ask about her friend, but sees how poor the family is, so she gives up on getting the money back. Meanwhile, Jin-ho's company has money problems too. But to cheer everyone up, he organizes a team outing. When he gets home from work, he hears a scream. He runs to the bathroom, but finds Kain is fine. He leaves awkwardly, but after a few steps Kain calls him back. She says she lost her contact lenses while showering and asks Jin-ho to help find them. Facing Kain, who's only wrapped in a towel, Jin-ho feels very embarrassed. He tells Kain to put clothes on quickly, but Kain says with Jin-ho's sexual orientation, there's no need for that. So Jin-ho reluctantly helps her search. The situation becomes super awkward later. Jinho prepares to go back to his room, but Kain pesters him to go eat barbecue. Jinho wants to say no, but Kain won't take no for an answer. Helpless, he agrees to go with her. While eating, Kain remembers her ex-boyfriend and accidentally drinks too much. Just then Chairman Choi arrives with friends. Worried Kain might say something wrong in front of Chairman Choi. Jinho urges her to go home, but Kain says she needs the bathroom. Right after Kain leaves, a waiter brings them a drink. Jinho thinks they didn't order it, but then a middle-aged woman nearby starts flirting with him. Jinho is speechless, but what's worse, her husband, Tom, sees everything. Tom gets furious. He storms toward Jinho and grabs him by the collar. Drunk Kain tries to stop them, but Tom keeps yelling, calling Jinho a pretty boy. Jinho fights back. Their argument gets louder. They're about to fight. Then Kain suddenly shouts, "This man doesn't like women." Instantly, the whole restaurant goes silent. Jinho is mortified. After greeting Chairman Choi, he quickly leaves on their way back. Jinho wants to scold Kain, but she suddenly starts crying and keeps apologizing to Jinho. Jinho is completely disarmed by her behavior. But that's not the end of it. Drunk Kain plops down on the roadside with no other choice. Jinho carries Kain home on his back. At this point, Jinho feels like dying. But things get even worse after they get home. Kain says she twisted her ankle, so Jinho has to massage her foot. While he's doing this, Kain keeps praising his amazing skills. When it's over, Kain shouts, "Mr. Gay is the best." Jinho is so mad, he wants to hit someone. He hates being mistaken for gay, but to keep learning at Sangwon-jae, he has to endure it. The next day, Kain remembers what she said at the food stall. She regrets it. As she heads to the bathroom, she hears Jinho about to leave. She quickly lies on the floor pretending to be dead. Jinho tries to get her to sleep inside, but she doesn't react, even when he kicks her. So he just leaves. After Jinho is gone, Kain rushes to the bathroom, but Jinho suddenly opens the window and asks if she has anything to say to him. Kain plays dumb, saying she blacked out from drinking. Then she claims she needs to pee and quickly closes the window. Meanwhile, since meeting Jinho at Kain's place, he has had a crush on him. To get closer to him, she shares info about the art gallery design project with him. To thank her, Jinho grows closer to her. Changryul notices all this and gets extremely angry. At the same time, Young Sun visits Kain at home. Hearing Kain put her foot in her mouth again, Young Sun suggests grocery shopping. She wants to cook Jinho a nice meal. To apologize when Jinho comes home, Kain offers to cook for him, but Jinho isn't ready to forgive her easily. To stop Kain from speaking carelessly again, he makes her write a promise letter, saying she won't mention Jinho's sexual orientation in front of others. After signing the letter, Jinho softens his attitude. So Kain says she'll make him dinner. But the big problem is she's terrible at cooking. After messing around in the kitchen, she finally makes some awful-looking food. When she serves it to Jinho, he doesn't want to eat it, but she keeps acting pitiful. Jinho has no choice, so he eats it in the end. The next day, Jinho pays the price. His stomach feels like a mudslide is coming as he rushes to the bathroom. He's about to lose control, but the pharmacy clerk reminds him he forgot his keys. Jinho freezes in shock. He clenches tight and shuffles back just when he can't hold it anymore. Jinho calls the clerk over. After emptying his stomach, he wants to throw Kain, who fed him bad oysters, into the toilet. Though feeling terrible, Jinho still meets with Chairman Choi. Noticing Jinho might have an accident any moment, Chairman Choi gives him his fancy handkerchief and says they'll meet again when Jinho feels better. Meanwhile, Kain goes for a furniture designer interview, but gets rejected immediately. Changryul happens to see this. As she leaves, Changryul sees Kain running in heavy rain. Seeing her struggle like this, Changryul feels sorry for her. He follows Kain all the way to her house, but can't bring himself to go talk to her. Soon after Kain gets home, Jinho returns too. Kain now knows the oysters have gone bad. She quickly asks Jinho with concern, "Did you get diarrhea today?" But Jinho angrily tells her to stop talking about diarrhea. Kain insists on getting him diarrhea medicine. Jinho is about to lose his temper, but seeing her completely soaked, he softens. He throws Kain a towel and tells her to go change clothes later to apologize. Kain specially cooks Jinho some porridge. Just as Jinho is about to eat, he notices Kain watching him eagerly, so he holds the spoon out to her. Kain looks confused. Jinho says he's afraid she poisoned it. Kain has no choice but to take a bite. After she tests it, she offers another spoonful to Jin-ho without thinking he eats it. Then Kain says proudly, "You know what? We just had an indirect kiss." Jin-ho is speechless. He jokes that poison would have been better as they're sharing saliva. A drunk Changryul calls Kain. He says he's outside her house and asks her to come out. Jin-ho tells her to ignore him to save face. Kain says she won't go. But back in her room, Changryul keeps calling. As time passes, Kain finally runs out to see him. When she meets Changryul, she thinks he's here to apologize for betraying her. But instead, Changryul barely apologizes and blames Kain for not being feminine enough to make him want to spend his life with her. In the end, he puts all the blame for their breakup on her. While they're talking, In-hee calls Changryul. Hearing that In-hee and Changryul live together, Kain feels deeply insulted, heartbroken. She turns to leave. Seeing this, Jin-ho immediately scolds her harshly. He says she has no self-respect, just like a puppy. Kain gets angry when she hears this. She grabs a pillow and starts hitting Jin-ho with it, crying and asking why everyone keeps bullying her. After calming down, Kain decides to change herself. She makes a request to Jin-ho. "Jin-ho," she says, "can you turn me into a real woman?" The next morning they both wake up to the alarm clock. They're both shocked for a moment. Luckily, nothing happened between them last night. Kain quickly asks Jin-ho why he slept in the same bed with her. Jin-ho asks if she forgot what she did the night before. After thinking hard, Kain remembers. After being hurt by her ex-boyfriend, she clung to Jin-ho's leg and begged him to turn her into a real woman. When Jin-ho refused, she even followed him into his room. Now that she's sober, Jin-ho wants to reject her request even more, but Kain keeps pestering him. Jin-ho can't resist, so he reluctantly agrees. To show her sincerity, Kain makes him instant coffee, but Jin-ho says he won't drink it unless it's civet coffee. He also complains, "Why do you wear the same clothes for dates, meals, and even going to the bathroom?" Kain says it's so she can spend more time with her boyfriend. Jin-ho immediately tells her her biggest problem is lack of confidence. Making a man wait is also part of a woman's charm. To train her patience, Jin-ho makes Kain hold her breath underwater. He even locks her in a small room and deliberately creates distractions to test her focus. Once Kain becomes less restless, Jin-ho corrects her posture and movements. At noon they sit down to eat grilled meat together. Excited, Kain grabs her chopsticks right away, but Jin-ho stops her, telling her to mind her manners even while eating. Just then Jack and Young Sun arrive. Jack sits down and tries to eat with Jin-ho's chopsticks, but Jin-ho says that's too dirty. He tells Jack to use different chopsticks. Young Sun smirks at this. She says couples should share like this. Jack looks confused. Then Young Sun adds, "I have many gay friends, so I understand." Jack is so shocked, he almost drops his meat. After Jin-ho explains, he realizes they're being mistaken for a gay couple. Facing this ridiculous situation, both feel completely speechless. But to keep learning from Jin-ho, Jack decides to play along with the act. Once they leave the room, Jack bursts out laughing. Kain then kneels to apologize to Jin-ho, saying she and Young Sun shouldn't have brought up his sexuality. Jin-ho wants to get angry, but since it already happened, he has to keep holding it in soon. After, to thank In-hee for her help, Jin-ho takes her out to eat. At the same time, Kain prepares dinner and waits for Jin-ho. When Jin-ho comes home, he sees Kain waited without eating. This touches him deeply, so he takes Kain out for dinner. Now their relationship improves. Soon Jin-ho must attend a designer event where Changryul will also be. He invites Kain as his date to completely transform Kain. Jin-ho buys her real Armani clothes, then takes her to a hairstylist, giving her a full makeover. When they arrive at the party, they instantly become the center of attention. Seeing this, Changryul immediately regrets his choices. Kain gets her period. He rushes to buy pads, but notices 3 schoolgirls watching him. The girls are mesmerized by his looks. The 3 girls stare at him without blinking. He tries to secretly grab the pads, but gets no chance. This is so embarrassing. So he slowly moves closer to the pads section, pretending to look at razors. After much hesitation, he finally makes his move. Later Jin-ho gives the pads to Kain. This solves Kain's urgent problem. Then Kain walks into the hall. Just then Changryul spots her. To her surprise, Changryul shamelessly says Kain came to the party with Jin-ho just to make him jealous. Kain feels extremely embarrassed. Jin-ho sees this happening. He immediately steps in to help Kain. This shocks Changryul. Back home that night, Kain has bad cramps. She can't even sit up straight. Jinho feels sorry for her. He quickly checks online guides and makes her ginger tea carefully, but Kain still feels terrible. All drugstores are closed now, so he drives dozens of miles home, lies to his mom about having a headache, and gets painkillers. At Kain's request, Jinho sits by her bed and rubs her stomach all night. He falls asleep without realizing it. When young Sun sees this in the morning, she gasps and covers her child's eyes, thinking they're dating. Kain explains everything, stressing nothing happened at night. Then young Sun asks Jinho to model for her. Jinho doesn't want to, but the three beg him repeatedly. Finally, he gives in during the photo shoot. Jinho and Kain's feelings subtly change meanwhile after seeing Kain shine at the party. Changryul regrets his actions again. He acts even stranger. She can't stand seeing her old friend happy. She grows jealous. Seeing Kain and Jinho grow closer, she's extremely jealous. Using her position as Chairman Choi's assistant, she frequently contacts Jinho, who's participating in the bid. She tries to control Jinho. Since he and Changryul both have hidden motives, they eventually break up completely. Meanwhile, Changryul's father also wants the art museum project to eliminate Jinho from the competition. He approaches President Choi, Chairman Choi's father. He convinces President Choi that major projects like this shouldn't be given to small companies easily. They should set higher requirements for participants. President Choi agrees with this idea. He accepts the suggestion. The rule change makes Jinho lose his qualification. This puts his company in danger. Jinho remembers how Changryul's father once took everything from his family and caused his father's death. He couldn't do anything back. Then Jinho becomes furious. He gets completely drunk. Under the influence of alcohol, he kisses Kain. From this moment, Kain starts feeling more than friendship for Jinho. When Chairman Choi learns his father changed the rules without telling him, he gets angry. After arguing with his father, he quits the museum project. Knowing all this, Kain keeps encouraging Jinho. Feeling encouraged, Jinho decides to try again. He finds Chairman Choi, who's on vacation. Chairman Choi has always believed in Jinho. He's also been hiding a secret in his heart. They don't talk about the museum project at all, but seeing Jinho makes Chairman Choi decide to do two things. First, he risks his career to persuade his father as his son. The second thing is, Chairman Choi finds Jinho and tells him his long-hidden secret. Chairman Choi says, "Just like you heard, the moment I first saw you, I felt something special." Jinho never expected Chairman Choi to be attracted to him physically. He naively thought Chairman Choi only admired his talent. After leaving Chairman Choi's office, Jinho stands there in shock. Just then Changryul stops Jinho. Changryul has already learned from friends that Chairman Choi likes men to upset Jinho. He mocks Jinho for pretending to be gay to use Chairman Choi. Jinho wants to argue back, but then Chairman Choi appears nearby. Seeing the sadness in Chairman Choi's eyes, Jinho can't bear to hurt his pride. After hesitating, Jinho publicly comes out as gay. Everyone is shocked beyond words. Kain sees everything. She feels sorry for Jinho. When Changryul insults Jinho's sexuality, Kain slaps him hard. Changryul is stunned when he betrayed Kain before she just quietly accepted it. Meanwhile, Jinho feels terrible for telling one lie after another. He even considers quitting the museum design project. Ever since Kain kissed Jinho, she's had mixed feelings about him, but Jinho pretended to forget it happened. Plus, with Jinho's sexuality issue, Kain keeps her feelings to herself and encourages Jinho to stay strong. At the same time, President Choi changes the contest rules at Chairman Choi's request. This means Jinho's team can compete again, but Jinho isn't happy about it. Not wanting special treatment from Chairman Choi, Jinho goes to see him and rejects his romantic feelings. Changryul's dad gets furious about the rule change. Also, Changryul's dad suddenly learns that Kain's father is a famous designer. This makes him even angrier. He thinks his son was stupid to break up with Kain and yells at Changryul, wanting Kain's father's support. Changryul's dad goes to see Kain and tells her if he'd known about her father's status earlier, he would have agreed to let Kain and Changryul be together long ago. Kain feels deeply insulted after hearing this. What makes her even angrier is Changryul shamelessly asks to get back together with her. To calm her anger, Kain decides to take revenge on Changryul and asks Jinho to be her teacher. But soon after the revenge plan starts, Jinho realizes he's falling for Kain. He gets jealous whenever Kain meets Changryul and can't help but lose his temper with her. Meanwhile, he refuses to believe Jinho likes men. She asks Jack about Jinho's preferences. When she learns Jinho likes women, she starts pursuing him to create alone time. She even breaks things at home and claims there was a burglary. She even manages to kiss Jinho. Luckily, Jinho isn't tempted. Seeing Jinho and In-hee getting closer makes Kain jealous. She keeps fighting with Jinho. Their relationship becomes more tense. Kain doesn't want things to get worse, so she invites Jinho out for a day to show her feelings. She even dresses as a man, though Jinho doesn't understand why. They make up and become close again. Soon after Jinho's mom learns he's living with a woman, she visits with Jinho's childhood friend and objects to them living together. To avoid misunderstandings, Kain suggests Jinho come out as gay, but Jinho's mom overhears and nearly faints from shock. To fix the situation, Jinho lies that he's dating Kain and planning to marry her. Kain panics when she hears this. She feels both happy and worried because she still thinks Jinho likes men. Facing this situation, Kain feels something's wrong with her, but she has fallen for Jinho. She's even willing to marry Jinho, even if they can only be best friends forever. Young Sun thinks Kain has gone crazy to stop Kain from jumping into a miserable marriage. She comes up with a plan. She brings in Chairman Choi, who likes Jinho, and tries to set them up. But this makes Jinho very angry. The meeting between Jinho and Chairman Choi ends awkwardly. This action deeply upsets Jinho. He thinks Kain is trying to get rid of him. After a big fight with Kain, Jinho leaves Sang-eun-jae. Changryul and In-hee soon hear about this. To keep them apart for good, Changryul and In-hee arrange for Jinho and Kain to meet. Seeing Jinho and In-hee getting closer, Kain finally loses control. She tells Changryul the truth, saying she was just getting back at him, and admits she likes Jinho. Jinho sees this happen. He immediately runs to Kain. Then they start kissing passionately. Later, Kain is mad at Jinho for pretending to like men, but because of his handsome face, she quickly forgives him. To clear things up with Chairman Choi, Jinho bravely tells him the truth. Then Jinho and Kain begin their sweet romantic life. But just then Jinho's mom accidentally finds out Kain is Changryul's ex. Since Jinho's dad and Changryul's dad are enemies, Jinho's mom struggles to accept their relationship. Meanwhile, Changryul was ready to give up on Kain, but learns Jinho entered Sang-eun-jae to steal skills. Suddenly, this shameless man finds moral high ground. He thinks Jinho doesn't deserve Kain. Using his connections, he kicks Jinho out of the office building, leaving Jinho with no workplace. Then he convinces the workers from the accident. The injured worker demands a huge compensation from Jinho. Jinho suddenly finds himself in big trouble. Meanwhile, Jinho accidentally discovers a basement in Sanjeonji. There he finds Professor Park's blueprints. These blueprints were actually made years ago for the art museum project. Now Jinho realizes Sanjeonji is just a small part of the whole design. On the other side, with the competition deadline approaching and Changryul constantly pressuring him, Jack becomes desperate. By chance, he also finds Professor Park's blueprints. He gives them to Chairman Choi without permission. The worst part is Professor Park has already been invited to be the main judge for the art museum project. When Jinho learns Jack took the wrong blueprints, he rushes to fix it, but it's too late. Professor Park gets furious when he sees his own blueprints. He immediately suspects Jinho only dated Kain to steal the blueprints. Jinho can't explain himself. In the end, he has to break up with Kain. Soon the competition begins. Jinho submits his design on time. Chairman Choi believes Jinho is innocent. He convinces Professor Park not to be biased against Jinho. Finally, Jinho's design is revealed. His concept has nothing to do with Sanjeonji. His inspiration comes from his love with Kain. His work beats Changryul's design and wins the project. At the end, Kain realizes she misunderstood Jinho and returns to him. Jinho clears his name about the theft and earns Professor Park's approval. Jinho's mother also changes her mind and accepts Kain. Jinho and Kain begin their happy life together.